Other additions, such as the class world and the different student clubs that you can unlock and have characters join, allows you to customize your units in a way that hasn't really been done in other games before. It allows you to give them special abilities or just unlock specific menu items that wouldn't be available otherwise, such as the Magi Change ability, which I will get into a little later on. Even the item world received some refinement for the game. While the subpoena system from the second game was not kept, the pirate system was, and it was seriously revamped for this game. Now, you don't have to find all the pirate teams, it's much easier to find them, and they're actually much easier to deal with. But this also brought on another refinement in the reverse pirating system. After you beat the pirates, you actually commandeer their ship, and after you fully complete a level or an item, you can take their ship out and be reverse pirates, take it to one of the innocent towns that you've been to, and pretty much steal everything that isn't nailed down. However, this does come at a cost, as you do need to be aware of the amount of turns the ship stays, and how many things you can fit on the ship. In keeping with every game having to have some form of online functionality, there was also a leaderboard made for the game in where you try to run through an item world as fast as you can while using as few commands as possible. Now, I'm sure by this point in the videos you've noticed a bit of a pattern where each of these games seems to have that one big flaw that sort of annoys me, to the point where I actually think it drags the game down just a little bit. The first game had its balance issues, and the second game had the busy work that you had to do to get most of its extra content. This game actually has two flaws, but one of them is far, far worse than the other. So let's go over the more harmless one right now. It's the Magi Change system. In concept, the Magi Change ability is actually really cool, but its execution leaves a lot to be desired. You see, the main problem is in its balance. The idea behind Magi Change is that two characters, a monster and a human, if they're in the same club, can combine each other, the monster becoming a weapon and equipping itself to the human, and can combine their powers to become more powerful, or access special attacks and abilities that they didn't have before. But the problem here is, it takes a little while to set up. You need to have people who are in the same club, one monster and one human at least. The monster always turns into a specific weapon, so you need to keep track of that. And the worst part is, it's pretty much useless. For one thing, it only lasts for 2 turns, and after those 2 turns are up, the monster disappears off the battle map and counts as a knocked out unit, meaning that there's one less character that you can use to help you during the fight. Even worse than that, the weapon that they become, it never really got more powerful than the equipment I was already equipping at the time. So, in essence, using one of my monster characters for only 2 turns and not really getting any benefits out of it, well, I never once had to use the Magi Change during the entirety of my playtime during this game. Not once, not counting this tutorial here. But as I said, it's a pretty minor complaint about the Magi Change system, and I'm sure some of you out there would disagree with me on this point, but I just found the Magi Change system to be completely useless. But it's pretty easily ignored, and you don't have to use Magi Change at any point during this game. So let's move on to my big complaint about this particular entry in the series, the use of mana. Now, in the first 2 games, mana was obtained by killing enemies, and was used primarily to create new characters and pass bills at the Dark Assembly. In the third game, those 3 truths still hold. You still use it to create new characters, you still get it from killing enemies, and you still use it to pass bills at the Dark Assembly, or what this game calls the home room. However, it's used for a lot more in this game. In this game, mana is used for pretty much everything. Aside from buying new weapons, armor, or items, you have to use it to create new characters and pass bills, yes, but you also need to use it to learn new skills. You need to use it to upgrade those skills, as they don't level up naturally as they did in the other games. You need to use it to buy your special techniques that you can equip, and you also need it to buy special upgrades for the classroom and the class world. Now, normally I wouldn't complain about something like this, but it's overcomplicating something that was a relatively simple system to begin with. In the first two games, your skills would naturally level up as you used your weapon, and you didn't really have to worry about buying and upgrading your weapons or your skills. It would just level up naturally as your character used that type of weapon. But here, it is extremely difficult to balance the amount of mana that you have, and deciding whether to spend it on bolstering your army, upgrading your characters, or upgrading their skills or their magical abilities. It's just really, really hard to accurately upgrade, is what I'm saying. Especially early on in the game, where you can't mass harvest mana. You're basically stuck at a dead end unless you really want to power grind just to level up your mana and get enough to upgrade your skills and abilities. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time recounting my experiences with the graphics and things like that, because both the graphics and the music in this game are just as awesome as in the last two, and the leap from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, of course, brought about all of the changes that you would expect. The music is still fantastic, but sounds a whole lot crisper, and there's a much wider variety of it. In fact, there's a lot of new instrumental songs in this version that really sound very good, and aside from one or two tracks, there aren't a whole lot that repeat from the original games. Now, in terms of graphics, as you can tell, there's a lot more animation, the sprites look a lot crisper, and the environments do not look as polygonal as they did before. In other words, it improves on everything that was great with the graphics and the music from the last games, while still maintaining the look and feel of a Disgaea game. So what can I really say beyond that? I mean, this is a great trilogy of games, and each game, while it does have its separate flaws, has managed to improve upon itself several times before. And from the sales figures that have been coming from the Disgaea 4 sales in Japan, I have a feeling that that game's going to be just as awesome and epic as well, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. So I've covered all three of the main games, but there are a few spin-offs, some merchandise that we need to talk about, and things like that. So don't go away, folks. To close out the retrospective next time, we're all going to be taking a look at the Disgaea franchise as a whole, the merchandise it's produced, and another quick look at the company that spawned it. I'll see you all next time.